Hi Hoopers, welcome back to the Shoesayer. Today we're looking at which of the Way of Wade shoes are the best for you. But before we jump into the review proper, just playing in the 11s, they felt so light on foot, and also on my weighing scale, they weighed very light. So I was a bit skeptical. So I went ahead and I got an extra scale, right? So we have two scales right here. And now let's do a live test to see which of these shoes actually, is the lightest or which is the heaviest. All right, so starting with the Way of Wade 11. So I have the left foot here, the right foot here. So let's go. The right foot weighs 13.3 ounces, and then the left foot weighs 13.294. So one of the scale has higher accuracy or higher decimal point. So on average, that's 13.3. Pretty evenly balanced, which is really nice because most shoes have higher percentage points on one foot versus the other, but this is 13.3 ounces for both feet, and that's very light. So let's compare that to the Way of Wade 10s. I'm using the normals because, of course, the 11s don't have a low yet, so we have to do like a side-by-side comparison. So for here, the Way of Wade 10s, right foot is 13.2 ounces, which is nice, and then the left foot is 13.6 ounces. Okay, so that's an average of 13.4, right? So that's interesting. So the Way of Wade 11s are 13.3 and the 10s are 13.4. So on average, the 11s are 1 decimal point lighter. We're nitpicking, but yes, it is a battle between these shoes. So on weight, the Way of Wade 11s take that. Now, we have one more shoe, and I can already tell what the result of this is going to be. But we have the Way of Wade 8s. Great looking shoe, right? So let's see how these weigh. So the right foot weigh 1 pound, 2.4 ounces. So that's 18 ounces, 18.4 or 18.3 ounces. It's going between 3 and 4, but 18.4 ounces. These are bricks, yo. I mean, if you wanted ankle weights, you know the shoes to go for. And then let's see what the left foot says. The left foot actually, so this second scale is smaller, so the left foot overloads that scale. So I think that tells you everything you need to know. But yeah, I just wanted to get the weight test out of the way, but a lot more to discuss. Let's discuss about the performance, about the design, about the fit, and about finally the price for these shoes. And let's see which one you should go for. All right, let's jump into the video. All right, so for these three shoes, we're going to start by talking about performance. And the first thing under performance we're going to take a look at is the cushion. So how is the cushion for the Way of Wade 8s? The answer is it's pretty nice. Okay, so you have this high stack boom, and of course the boom is full length like how it is in most of the Way of Wade models. And you might look at this and think, it's caged on the lateral side and also in the back foot. So how does this actually perform in terms of cushion? And the answer is it performs great, right? So because of this stack height, if they didn't have all that caging, the shoe would be unstable, right? So the caging was sort of like a necessity, but because of how thick that boom is, you still feel it underfoot. And also to improve the step-in comfort, they have this semi-plush insole implemented, and this insole is not as great as the ones in the 10s or the 11s, but it's still a bit thicker than your regular Ultralight. And also the strobel board, I call this the OG perforated strobel board, right? So you can see this right here. It has those large holes in them, and most people think that this perforation started in 2022, 2023, but these shoes were made in 2019. So it shows you that Li-Ning has been pushing the envelope for some time now. So overall, the only drawback for the cushion, I would say, is if you're not a big, right, this stack height might make you feel like you're too elevated off the ground. It's not as bad as the LeBron 15s or 16s, but it might just make you feel like you don't have enough court feel. But in terms of the cushion implementation itself, I would give these max scores. So moving on to the cushion setup for the Way of Wade 10s. Here you have full length boom all the way from the heel to the forefoot. Also you have this plastic, which is softer than the ones in the Way of Wade 8s. Really soft, right? You can see it really compress when I touch it. And what this does is it contains the boom, but also it gives you for a smoother ride when you're striding down the court. That way you can feel the boom underfoot, and your feet won't hurt. It's not clunky, and you have very good impact protection as well. Also, on the lateral side, you have this plastic piece. It's not as soft as the one in the heel, but it's soft enough that it doesn't interfere with your ride while still providing you with lateral stability. In addition to that, you have a better, thicker insole, which is exactly the one in the way of weight 11s, but you can see that it's pretty thick. It gives you some rebound, and is also plush to touch and also on foot. Finally, you have same thing, right? Just mesh strobo board with more preparations per square inch, I guess, to give you a more even ride when your heel is on that boom. Okay, so overall, I would say, still max points for cushion. Is a great setup. The real difference between these and the way of weight 8s is because of this stack height and the overall implementation. This one is suited for guards and big men because it has, for impact protection, it's great for big men. Also, stack height is lower and is also very responsive, for guards, right? So both sort of players can play in them both, right? But still, max points for cushion, I would say 2.5. Finally, under performance, let's take a look at the way of weight 11s. It has some similarities to the way of weight 10s. For example, the same exact type of insole is used, plush and thick. Also, it has the same type of strobo board, so you get all the benefits there in terms of step and comfort. However, the implementation of boom is completely different in the way of weight 11s, right? So here you have boom everywhere in the midsole, just draped all around. It goes all the way, and here it even extends into the upper, where it merges with this external heel counter, right? So it gives a different kind of ride, right? And I'll explain what I mean by that. So the external heel counter here has a dual property. So here it's tough, right? It's hard in the back foot, and then it sort of goes all the way and stops in the midfoot where it's a bit softer. So what that does is in the heel, it gives you a more responsive ride because the boom in the heel is caged by this harder part of the plastic, right? So you get a more responsive and a less mushy ride in the heel, which is great if you're a guard who wants to be more responsive. If you played in a way of weight 10s and you said, oh, that was great, but I just want some more responsiveness, then this solves that. Okay, also you see here in the outsole, here in the way of weight 10 outsole, it's just hard rubber overall, right? So it doesn't compress. However, the outsole in the way of weight 11s is softer. So because they know that this is gonna make, that responsiveness, there might be a drop off in terms of how that cushion feels. They've implemented a softer outsole to also still give you part of the cushion. So it's weird, but the outsole is actually part of the cushion setup in the way of weight 11s, right? So that's one thing that's different. Another thing is that boom is extremely lightweight. So this is a great move from Way of Wade brand for the 11s, right? So apart from this plastic piece, the entire forefoot, is just this leather and then boom. So it's extremely light in the forefoot to the point where because all the weight is seemingly in the back foot, any weight you put on the forefoot would just make the shoe tilt forward like that. So it's always suggesting to you, like, take a run, right? So in terms of the weight distribution, these might be the shoes that have the best weight distribution I've seen ever, right? So forefoot extremely light so that it's always easy to make those strides in. Of course, you have, this curve in the forefoot and also in the heel, right? So it's not clunky at all, and it makes for a good ride overall. So great overall cushion setup, right? So I see every cushion setup here so far as a max 2.5 because they are all great setups, but just based on your style of play, right? So if you are just a bigger dude, right? If you're just a power forward or you're a center and you just want your cushion, you want your stack height, you want your protection, then the Way of Weight 8's probably good for you, right? Okay, if you're a guard, right, but you want less stack height, but you still want to have, a bit of a mushy feel. Maybe you're a very shifty guard who's probably in, the latter part of your casual or professional career, and then you just want a little bit more mushiness in the heel, then you would go for the Way of Weight 10s. But then if you're like in your prime and you want that responsiveness, and that could be the reason that you get a layup over a taller defender, and you just want to feel that court feel, but you also want that boom to give you that cushion, then the Way of Weight 11s would be your guy. But overall, these three shoes have top cushion, which is a great thing to see from the Way of Weight brand. All right, switching to traction performance, right? We're gonna start again with the Way of Weight 8s. Okay, so these don't do so well here. With the Way of Weight 8s, you're definitely in skates, man. So I've played on a clean court. It's not great on a clean court. It's just all right on a clean court. And then if there's any dust on the court, you're just gonna be sliding all the way through. So this has one of the worst dust pickup performances I've, ever witnessed or ever experienced. So in terms of that, I'm just gonna go ahead and give it a 0.5 over 2.5 for traction performance. Not good, not good. Now, moving on to the Way of Weight 10s for traction. On a clean court, I absolutely loved playing in these shoes. I got every stop I wanted, going laterally, just stopping on a dime, every direction I tried to go in. It was great for me in terms of traction. So I would give these a max score if it wasn't for dust pickup, right? So because these grooves are close together, if you play on a dusty court, at some point it's gonna fill up the grooves and then get on the material itself. And then because of the material used, it's not particularly able to bite through the dust, right? So you start getting some inconsistencies there, in my experience, right? So I would give it a 2 out of a possible 2.5, just because on a clean court, you do get everything you want. But yeah, that's it for the Way of Weight 10s. All right, let's talk about the traction on the Way of Weight 11s, right? So getting these, of course, I was skeptical, when you have a traction pattern that's, on one side Dwayne Wade's face, and on the other side, it's some mask from Crash Bandicoot, right? I'm just like, are we a joke to you, But at the end of the day, right, it did perform pretty good, right? I got all the stops I wanted when I'm getting to my crossover. I had no issues there on a clean court. But just like the Way of Weight 10 on a dusty court, and which is weird because, the grooves are not, all together. They're not close together on the Way of Weight 11s, but on a dusty court, it does pick up, quite, a bit of dust. And yes, it's an easy enough wipe on the 11s as it is on the 10s, but still, it's just like, do something about that, guys, right? I think for traction performance on a dusty court, it's all about the spacing of the grooves and also the outsole material, right? So, they just have to do a bit better there. So if it had better dust performance, then it would get a 2.5 max score, but as it stands, it only gets a score of 2 out of a possible 2.5 for traction performance for the Way of Weight 11s. Just quickly before we move on to the next section, right? Just some honorable mentions in terms of shoes that really do very well on dust performance. First, I have the Antakai ones, which is for me the best one, right? It has this coarse structure, so when you feel it, it feels like, almost like granite-like texture, almost like you're touching stones on the traction. And this bites through dust extremely well. And I think every shoe, this is 125 USD. I think every shoe should be able to get some sort of compound like this, so that you can play on an indoor dusty surface. And then moving on, I have the Austin Reeves AR1s, right? Those do pretty well on dust as well. And then the Ushuai series, right? So leaning Ushuai. So first, I think I have the Ushuai 15s, right? So these are the Ushuai 15s. These guys have this traction pattern. This was so bad, so grippy, that when I played with these shoes, I kept on falling over because it was just giving me too great of a stop. So this is top tier traction. And of course, I have the Ushuai 16s as well. Similar sort of traction pattern, and these guys work like a suction cup. These things are great in terms of cushion. And then finally, the Ushuai 17s as well. Here, they started this there, I think, CGU traction, which also is great through dust, right? So I just say that to say there are shoes that are getting this right in terms of traction performance, 2.5 on dust, right? So I don't think it's too much to us to get that. All right, so next section is traction durability, right? So for the Way of Weight 8s, I'm not gonna waste too much time here. The grooves are super hard, super deep. It's a shame that they're skates, but in terms of durability, they get max scores, 2.5. So in similar fashion, the Way of Weight 10s have great traction durability. The grooves are deep, they're thick, they're hard, everything you'd expect. You can play outdoors with these, indoors, whatever you like, whatever surface you like, and these will hold up just fine. So max scores for the Way of Weight 10s in terms of traction durability. And then for the Way of Weight 11s, in terms of traction durability, they should have done way better here. Okay, so the grooves are thin. You know, I mentioned that, you know, in the heel, the outsole is soft. Well, that's a problem because the grooves are thin, they're shallow, and they're not hard, right? So at the end of the day, if you're playing outdoors, you just leave this at home, right? You can't play with these outdoors. I have played in these about 4 times indoors. I've cleaned this up so you can see, right? Initially there was some wear and tear here, right here in the WoW, but it seems that has stabilized, right? And now the shoes are okay, but just keep them indoors, guys, right? So because it's not all the way durable in terms of traction, for this section it gets a score of 1.5 out of a possible 2.5. So for the final subsection on the performance, we have stability. And how stable is the Way of Weight 8s? It's pretty stable, okay? So you have this carbon fiber torsional plate, so you have that, and it is full length. They've been doing this since 2019, right? So you might not be able to see that from the outsole. However, if you try to flex the forefoot, you can see that it's only just almost at the end of the forefoot, you can see that flexing, right? So the entire thing that's restricting that flex is the full length carbon fiber plate. This strap-in is not very functional, to be honest, but you don't really need it because you're already stable in the shoe. The laces provide a good amount of lockdown, although I don't really think all this, you know, extra things were needed, but you're still stable in the shoe. The only thing that's a knock on the shoe, in my opinion, is the stack height, right? So because you're a little bit elevated off the ground, it can, you know, lead to some stability issues because you want to have a wide base and you want to be closer to the ground overall. So that's the only knock, but overall it's a good shoe. Also, you have this plastic side piece on the lateral side that gives you that additional lateral support. And also even on the medial side, right, you have the outsole, you know, coming up and acting as a side piece as well. So, you know, I would give these a 2 out of a possible 2.5 for stability. So in similar fashion, the Way of Weight 10s have a great stable setup. They have all the pros from the 8s, but not the con of this high stack height, right? So the stack height in this case is lower than you have in the 8s, so that gives you a more connected feeling to the ground and also reduces your chances of toppling over rolling that ankle. Okay, so in the case of the Way of Weight 10s, you can actually see that carbon fiber plate peek through the outsole. Of course, you have your internal heel counter, and you have this side piece on the lateral side to contain you laterally. Also on the medial side, you also have this softer piece to keep your foot, you know, contained. So overall, it's a great stable setups. I had no issues playing in these shoes, and I've played in them a million times. 2.5 marks for the Way of Weight 10s. As for the stability in the Way of Weight 11s, it is also top marks. However, it is achieved in a completely different way. So you have, instead of an internal heel counter, you have this one-piece dual property plastic that doubles as an external heel counter, starting just at the back of the medial side to the back foot, and then stopping and doubling in the midfoot as a lateral support counter. So a lot of things going on here, but this one piece is doing a lot of things. So first thing it's doing is giving you lateral support on the lateral side, and also it's giving you some medial support on the medial side. So because this medial side piece is shorter, you can see that that's where the dual property kicks in. It's tougher on the medial side, so it keeps your foot in position. And then because it has a lot of leeway as it fades into the midfoot / forefoot, it's softer here because it doesn't need to be as stiff because there's more surface area here to keep your foot in the shoe. So the R&D team is going crazy at Li-Ning, and then, you know, that's how they've achieved this stable shoe for, you know, the Way of Weight 11. Also, it has, you can't see it, but it has a full length carbon fiber plate. It is sandwiched between the outsole and the midsole, and how you can tell most times is, you know, try and forefoot flex. You can see that just like the Way of Weight 8s is not letting me flex all the way in the forefoot because, you know, it has that full length carbon fiber, so that gives additional stability. Also, of course, here you have the boom essentially merging with this plastic piece to give you additional support laterally. And let's not forget that the medial side also has leather, right? So leather as an upper material also provides additional stability so that your foot stays locked in the shoe. So a lot of things going on here in the Way of Weight 11. And I know I'm getting excited, but I like when I see you know, companies make these strides or make efforts to change things up and still make them even more functional than they were before. So Anything above top marks, I would have given this for stability, but here we go with 2.5. All right, so for the performance section, the Way of Weight 8s get a score of 7.5 over 10. There were a lot of things they could have implemented better, and you see them do that in the Way of Weight 10s, which get a score of 9.5 over 10. A great performing shoe. And then for the 11s, they would have had the same score if not for the traction durability, which is an issue, right? Especially for the price these shoes are going for, you have to make them playable outdoors. So these get a score of 8.5 over 10. Let's see what they do with the V2s. Do they make them more durable? But at the end of the day, these shoes, we have to nitpick, right? So it's still a preference thing. You might say, oh, I only play indoors, right? So, still the same to me to get the 11s over the 10s for the reasons that we discussed in the video, but still up to you. But overall, for now, 8.5 over 10 for the Way of Weight 11s. All right, so moving on to the fit section where we talk about, can you actually play in these shoes, for days and days without even realizing you have them on? So we're gonna start with the Way of Weight 8s. The Way of Weight 8s have a huge heel slippage issue. So just look at this, look at the back of the shoe, right? It's so flat. They try to sculpt it a little bit inside, but it didn't work, right? So when you're playing in these, your foot just keeps sliding up all the time. Also, this piece here digs into the back of your ankle. Like, I don't know, but they didn't get it right here in these shoes. They also feel a little bit bulky, right? With all these futuristic dials. I don't know what these phone dials, whatever it's supposed to be, but it makes it a bit bulky on foot. Also, this strap doesn't really do anything, just an additional thing to make you, I guess, strap on when you're wearing them. But in terms of the fit, I mean, they are true to size, if that's any consolation, but I don't think they did very well in terms of the general fit for the shoes, and I would give them a score of 1.5. So how about the fit for the Way of Weight 10s? The trick here is getting your size right. So the Way of Weight 8s was true to size, but Way of Weight 10s is a bit more tricky. If you are a wide footer, you want to go at least half a size up. If you can test them in store, that's the best case scenario, because sometimes you go half a size up and then they just run slightly longer than you would expect. I went true to size, right? So lengthwise, they're fine, and it gives me a great one-to-one fit. I feel like the shoes are part of my feet when I play in them. I like that it has less padding than the Way of Weight 8s, which is pretty padded up. Right? It has less padding, but the padding is sufficient. And then the synthetic materials in the upper give you a very minimal feel, which is what I love in my basketball shoes. I feel very light on foot. So in terms of that fit, it is fine. However, when I play with these over time, especially like if I have a long hoop session, 3 hours, then my pinky toe on my right foot starts to sort of warm up and starts to hurt me over time because it's right there. I even got like a shoe expander at some point. That's how desperate I was, because the length was great, but I wanted to get it a bit wider. So it's one of those things where I would advise that you should make sure you try these on if you can, and then before you buy them. But when you do have your size, it has the perfect fit. The laces keep you locked in, and they're one of those laces. Same one is used in the 10s, I believe, where once you tie them on, they are not going to come off, right? So overall, great shoe in terms of fit, and I would give it a 2 out of a possible 2.5 just because of that trickiness when it comes to sizing. Right? You can see it's a pretty narrow shoe when you compare it with the Way of Weight 11s, right? You can see the difference here. So it's very tricky. If you get the wrong width, it might end up not being the best experience. So I feel like sizing should be better and more universal. So I'm just going to give it a 2 out of a possible 2.5 for fit. Moving on to the Way of Weight 11s, of course, they built on what they had in the 10s. The major difference here is how wide the Way of Weight 11s are. So it's like they heard all the feedback, because even lengthwise, right? So let me just place this on top, right? So even lengthwise, can you see that? Right? You can see how the Way of Weight 11s, same size. These are both 9.5s, right? But you can see that the Way of Weight 11s sort of run longer in terms of the overall last. They feel the same way when I put my feet on, but there's more room in the shoe somehow to you know, make sure your foot is more comfortable. So it has a wider base and is less likely to choke your foot out, which I personally like. I feel even if you have a narrow foot, you're not going to feel like you're swimming in there because it's still a pretty snug fit, but they've just implemented it in a way slightly where the fit in the 11s are just better than the Way of Wade 10s, in my opinion. So for that, the Way of Wade 11s get a score of 2.5. Also, they have this, you know, booty construction. So essentially this upper material that also acts like a sock. It also has some padding here in the ankle area, so that also adds additional comfort. So yeah, 2.5 marks. All right, so moving on to the next section, we're going to discuss how easy it is to put your foot in or take your foot out of these shoes. First, starting with the Way of Wade 8s. It's pretty simple, to be honest, right? Once you just get done with the laces here, you jack the tongue up and you can see that huge area for you to stick your foot in, which is great. However, this would have been max scores if not for two things. First thing is this strap, right? It's purely ornamental, right? It doesn't add anything. It's just an additional thing I have to take off to put my foot in the shoe. And also these dials by the laces, I have to like thread them like a needle, right? So it's annoying to do that. That's just one more thing I wish I didn't have to do. So because of those two things, I would just give this a score of 2 out of a possible 2.5. All right, in that same vein, the Way of Wade 10s are also easy to put on. They have, you know, this same huge area once you get through the laces. However, I also have one major issue here is I just never could put my foot in these shoes without the top of my foot hitting this part of the tongue every single time. So it would like scratch and scathe and, you know, just give me some problems there. No matter how much I took the laces out, the top of my foot would always hit this yellow area here. So yeah, that was annoying. And then obviously I'm in the business of nitpicking, so ease of putting on and taking off, we get a 2 out of a possible 2.5 for the Way of Wade 10s. All right, so finally in this section for the Way of Wade 11s, they are the best, the easiest shoes to put your foot in out of the lot, right? So once you're past few of the laces, you see the same sort of foot area for you to put your foot in. They have this huge tongue, which, you know, you could twist, turn, pull as much as you want, and it's going to give you some more room in there. And then you have no other restrictions. There's no gimmicks, right? So my foot, the top of my foot isn't touching the top of the tongue here or the bottom of the tongue, and there's no weird lace things for me to, you know, try to thread as, you know, just to get my foot in the shoe, right? So yeah, this is just what I wanted, right? This is easy peasy, and this gets a max score of 2.5 for ease of putting on and taking off. Okay, so the next subsection under comfort and fit is breathability. And starting out with the Way of Wade 8s, and to be honest, just across the board for these shoes, breathability isn't that great, right? So most of the ventilation for the shoes here come from the tongue, right? So same thing, you can see as I show you this, right? There are perforations in the tongue. The padding here for the tongue is slightly thicker than the other two. However, like when you look at the other side, those perforations don't line up, right? So you see holes, but really they're not doing all that much. And just blowing through the shoes, you know, I don't feel air coming out on the other side all too much, right? So the shoes are pretty hot if you're gonna play with them in a hot climate or hot temperatures and just, you know, play for a long time. You can expect your feet to get hot in those. So I would give this a score of 1.5 over 2.5 for breathability. Same thing for the Way of Wade 10s, right? So the same thing right here, you can see that these yellow sections in the tongue, that's where they have those perforations. It's expected that the airflow would go through those, and also this mesh in the forefoot. But I tell you, like this one in the forefoot, nothing is going through that when I blow air through the shoes. So yeah, it's pretty, it's the upper is a bit more minimal here, but in terms of airflow, it's almost like the Way of Wade 8s, to be honest. It's not that much greater. So I would say a score of 1.5 over 2.5 here as well for the Way of Wade 10s. And then finally for the 11s, just looking at this, right, you can see that they know that, you know, in the previous shoes, having perforations in the toe box was just gimmicks. So here they're like, you know what? I'm just gonna give you solid all through, and then I'm just gonna increase the perforations here in the tongue, right? So here they have larger holes in the tongue, which is slightly better, but again, you have no airflow through the other upper of the shoe. So I would say same thing, 1.5 across board for breathability, which means they can definitely improve that in the next versions. All right, so still under comfort and fit, now moving to the weight section. We already addressed a little bit of the weight in the intro, so I'm just going to go ahead and give the scores for the shoes. The weight of weight 8s, overall, I think they overloaded one of my scales, and then the other one they weighed in at about 18.5 ounces. That is crazy, right? So you can carry that weight on you. They really should have done better, to be honest. So yeah, these shoes get a score of 0.5 over 2.5 for the weight. Now moving on to the weight of weight 10s, the right foot and the left foot had an average of 13.4 ounces, so that's pretty lightweight. And to be honest, minus all these scales, right, just on foot, you know, they're good to go. So of course these get a score of 2.5 out of 2.5. And then finally, the weight of weight 11s weighed in at 1 point lighter than the weight of weight 10s, right? So 13.3 for the average weighing both the right foot and the left foot. So definitely a surprise there with how bulky this might look like in the video, but these shoes are super light. You know, so yeah, definitely 2.5 out of 2.5 there for the weight of weight. Now for some context, right? So let me weigh some other shoes just to give you guys some context, right? So the Anta Kai ones, right, they weigh in at about 14.4 14.5 ounces, so they're heavier than both the weight of weight 10s and the 11s for my size, which is 9.5, but they're pretty light shoes. So I love playing with Antas. They are not a brick at all to carry on foot, but so that's just to give you some context to show how light these shoes are. Now on the flip side, if I take these guys, the Harden Volume 8s, right? These guys weigh in at these guys weigh in at 17.4 ounces. So you can see that they are even lighter than these weight of weight 8s, but of course they're heavier than the weight of weight 10s, 11s, and the Kai ones, right? So yeah, 17.4 ounces. And to be honest, it's all about weight distribution because these play better by far than these, although these guys you know, it's almost like this is heavier but similar weight group, but these guys don't feel heavy on foot. And then finally, the lightest pair of shoes that I currently have are these guys. These are the Leaning Super Light V2s. They're also breathable, right? So when I do the breathing test, I feel air. Yippee, right? So this is 2.5 in terms of breathability, but also in terms of weight. So these are the lightest I have, and if I weigh them, they come in at 12.9 ounces, right? So in comparison, 12.9 for the lightest shoes I have versus 13.3, 13.4 for the weight of weight 10 and 11. So great in terms of weight. Of course, there are the Gammas, which I will soon get my hands on and probably test those too, but that's another story. All right, so overall for comfort and fit, the weight of weight 8s get a score of 5.5 over 10. They obviously could have done better, and they did better in the weight of weight 10s, which have a score of 8 over 10 for comfort. And you see that progression further even as we get to the weight of weight 11s, which weigh in at a score of 9 over 10 for comfort. These shoes are super comfortable to play in. Yeah, so those are the rankings. Let's move on. For the third main section, we're going to discuss design and aesthetics and start off with visual appeal for the weight of weight 8s. For me, these shoes look awesome, especially at the time when they came out in 2019. I had never seen anything like it, right? It had the midfoot strap, it had the dials for laces, it has, you know, the boom cross section with the carbon fiber plate, this whole wavy pattern on the lateral side, and there were so many bomb colorways, you know, and I went to websites, I looked up reviews, they're like, oh, these shoes are the best shoes of all time, you need to buy them. And of course, you know, one of my most regretted decisions of all time was actually buying these shoes and testing them out. And I'm like, what? And that's a big reason why I actually started my channel, because I couldn't believe how much I was misled on this purchase. But yeah, visually, I still think they look pretty good, and they're a very nice shoe to look at. So I'm gonna give them, although I'm hurt, I'm still gonna give them, I think, a 2.5 out of 2.5 for visual appeal. But let me know what you think in the comments on what you think about how these shoes looks overall. Moving on to the visual appeal for the Way of Weight 10s, I absolutely love the way these shoes look. They have like a million colorways, and also they have the lows, and the lows also look outstanding, right? So these are great looking shoes. I love the overall silhouette, I love the shape, and all the patterns that they play with. So definitely a 2.5 shoe in terms of visual appeal on the basketball court. My favorite colorway for these pair is the Valentine's Day colorway. I really like that one. But yeah, max scores for visual appeal for the Way of Weight 10s. Yeah, for me also, the Way of Weight 11s have a great silhouette. Definitely novel, but I like the way you have this splash. It has grown on me a lot, having played with it and just seeing it in real life and having it on hand, right? And I really like the design. I have since seen some other colorways. I have seen a Laker colorway. I think I have seen like a red and a black colorway, and they all look pretty nice. I probably might get, maybe when they release the lows, I might get one more, but I would give these max score again for visual appeal on the basketball court for me. And because these turn heads, these make people ask you, oh, what do you have on? What's that? And as hoopers, we all like that feeling. So definitely a 2.5 for me. So as good as these three shoes are in terms of visual appeal on the basketball court, I would still say in terms of style versatility, which is, can you wear them out on a date, to see a movie, to the mall, etc. And for me, I think they're average. I wouldn't necessarily just go in my sneaker collection and pull this out and say, okay, I'm going out to the mall and I'm wearing the Way of Weight 11s or Way of Weight 8s. So for me, I would say the 8s, the 10s, and also the 11s. In terms of style versatility, I'm just going to give them a score middle of the park, 1.5 out of a possible 2.5. Please let me know, would you wear these out? Would you where else would you wear these shoes to in terms of outside the basketball court? Let me know in the comments what you guys would do. So next, under design and aesthetics, we're going to talk about innovation, and it's pretty important to look at innovation year on year to make sure we're getting enhancements, advancements in the product, and not just the same thing for a higher price without having actually done any work, right? So starting with the Way of Weight 8s, these shoes were 2019, and I have to give them top marks for innovation because they already had the OG strobo board, one of the first shoes to implement that. They had full-length boom at the time, which wasn't a thing in terms of full-length premium foam. They had these dials. They were already experimenting and making that look good. They had the strap. They also had the full-length carbon fiber shank, so also have to respect the durable outsole for outdoors and indoors. So overall, now let's not also forget the padding, right? They had pretty sick padding for the time. So I would say for innovation, yeah, pretty good. 2.5 out of 2.5 for the Way of Weight 8s. So in terms of innovation from the Way of Weight 8 to the Way of Weight 10s, the main thing that you can see as a difference here is this soft plastic. Because in the past, when you had plastic as part of your cushion setup, people would say, oh, it's a clunky ride. Oh, I'm not gonna get any compression. But this R&D around the plastic here really changed all of that, because you still get all the benefits of the cushion, and then you can cage it for a more stable ride. So that's the main difference between the 8s and the 10s. They did go to like synthetic uppers. They had that in the 8s as well. Not much else. Also, they had this regular plastic piece in the 8s. So in terms of 8s to the 10s, I would say the innovation was, this plastic piece, which is pretty good. But I would give these a 2 out of possible 2.5 for innovation. It's not too crazy, right? But it's really decent. So 2 out of possible 2.5. All right, for the Way of Weight 11s, I mean, just looking at the shoes, you can see that it looks like nothing, you've seen before, nothing we've seen before. So it has this dual density plastic, right? So we went from hard plastic to soft plastic, and now in the Way of Weight 11s, we have plastic that is hard and soft, right? So that is a great innovation. And now we have boom being used as the sidewall. So boom being used as part of the upper, which is pretty nice, right? So that's, for me, those are the two major things in terms of innovation. Also, I don't want to count this as an innovation, but the texture of the outsole. Here you have a softer rubber outsole, which is part cushion, part traction. I think that is also, could be a game changer if you can get a softer traction, but it's something that's still as durable. So yeah, in terms of innovation, definitely they thought out of the box with this one. So definitely a 2.5 out of 2.5 for the way of weight 11s. All right, so now that we're done talking about innovation, we can quickly pivot to materials and see how these shoes stack up against each other. So first we have the way of weight 8s, which is a great shoe in terms of materials. It has full length boom. It also has full length carbon fiber. In addition to that, it has this weave material throughout the upper, which is really nice to touch. It conforms to your foot very well, and it's also very durable. You have the laces, which are braided, which feel really good. And of course, when you lace these up, they're not coming out. And then inside the shoe, you have padding in the heel, and also you have these ankle pillows. And you see that even, the lining in the shoe is this textured fabric, right? It's not just plain nylon, but you can see that there's some texture there. So these feel very, very nice when you touch them. Overall, great shoe. Also, the Honourable board, it has this, mesh material, which is one of the first ones where we see this implemented. And then the insole is great because it has this anti-slip texture here, and is also quite plush. So overall, in terms of materials, let's not also forget that the outsole is very durable, right? You can use this in any sort of cord, indoor, outdoor, on the moon, and you'll be fine. Of course, so the materials here are great. Also, you have these circular loops for putting the laces through. You can see that there's some threaded pattern, and you have like this suede-like nubuck-like material here, like sanded down leather. So they pulled out all the stops, and even the plastic itself. It's not just very strong plastic. You also have some give to the plastic, so you can see that they have been experimenting with this dual density or this soft type plastic even back then. So in terms of course, you also have suede in the back foot, right? So there's tons of details overall, but one thing is clear is that they did not skimp on quality materials on the way of weight 8s. So these get a maximum score of 2.5. Right, now for the way of weight 10s, right, so that I don't have to repeat everything I just said. So they kept a lot of the good things: the insole, the Honourable board, the full length boom. The major difference here is that they had this softer plastic implemented in the heel, right? So this gives that bounce in the back foot, although it's a cage setup, right? So that's the one thing that they added in terms of materials. I would say because of like this plastic here, which is almost regular plastic, not the same as this softer one here, and also they I wouldn't say downgraded, but they went away from this very nice feeling weave-like material to a more synthetic minimal upper. So in terms of being premium, because these shoes are marketed as premium shoes, right? You can't, I feel like if you give me this sort of material, it's great, but you should probably also give me a reduced price for the same, right? So for comparison, I have here the AR1s, and the AR1s, they go for, I think you can get them for like $90, and even on some sites like 80 something bucks now, and they feel way better than the way of weight 10s in terms of materials. They're comparable to the 8s, if I'm being honest. So because of that, I would say that although they implemented this softer plastic in the heel, I would say that the upper feels a little less premium. Although it's not a performance thing, but it's a cost thing for me. If you're giving me less premium materials, you should give me less cost, a less price, point as well. So for me, I would say these are still pretty good, but not just all the way. They don't feel as premium as the way of weight 8s on hand. So I would just say a score of 2 out of a possible 2.5 for the materials on the way of weight 10s. And now back to the 11s regarding the materials, right? So it is, it's an uptick definitely from what we had with the Way of Weight 10s, here you see that there's leather implemented, which we haven't actually seen in a Way of Weight shoe in some time. So this leather is great, feels nice to touch, feels premium, conforms to your foot and everything. And then you have boom not only in the midfoot as the midsole, but you have boom here actually merging with this plastic stability piece to give it this aesthetic design, and it's also nice to touch. So they're using boom as a sidewall now. And then of course you have this plastic, but not just how it's implemented in the 10s where it's this soft plastic. Here you have dual density plastic, which is what I am calling it anyways. So with this dual density plastic, you have that tough side and then you have the soft side. So that's a great material implementation. And of course you have this wide tongue that feels plush with some some sort of fabric implemented there. It feels good on your ankle as well. And you have ankle pillows to the side of the shoe here as well, which makes for an overall good ride. So another thing that they've done material wise is implemented this soft traction, right? So the soft outsole, which also adds to the cushion of the shoe. So overall, I would say, the little details here and there for materials, these also feel just as premium, if not more premium than the Way of Weight 8s. So I give the Way of Weight 11s a score of 2.5 out of possible 2.5. All right, so for this section, I give the Way of Weight 8s a score of 9 out of a possible 10 for design and aesthetics. They really went all out in terms of making this shoe something that you would see and want to get, and also putting all the energy behind it in terms of materials and innovation. However, in terms of performance, it probably could do a little bit better. And then we have the Way of Weight 10s. I would give these a design and aesthetic score of 8 over 10, and it's great in just about every section. And I think in terms of materials, just because it's coming up against other premium shoes, the upper is where I personally penalized it a little bit, but some people actually prefer those synthetic uppers. So at the end of the day, it's still sort of a preference thing. So 8 over 10 for the Way of Weight 10s. And then finally for the Way of Weight 11s, I give these similar score to the 8s, a 9 over 10. You can see the intentionality with, introducing these premium touches with leather, with making it a 70% boom shoe, and then dual density plastic. So yeah, and then obviously this design is novel, and it's something that we haven't seen before. So 9 over 10 for design and aesthetics for the Way of Weight 11s. All right, so moving on to the last section before we wrap it all up, let's talk about price. Okay, so first off, the Way of Weight 8s are no longer being produced, so of course you're gonna have like reseller price there. From the research I did for my size 9.5, you can get this from like $250 US and up, really. So based on the review, you can decide if maybe there's something you want to go for, but that's the price. And then secondly, the Way of Weight 10s, they're currently going for let me just check that out. They're currently going for about $225 on the Way of Weight website. So, and I think they still have some new colorways that just dropped recently, so you can go get those. They have the lows as well if you're interested in those. So that's the cost for these. And then as for the Way of Weight 11s, they are yet to drop as at the time of this video, but they should be dropping, and they should have a similar price to the Way of Weight 10s, which is $225 US. However, I did purchase these guys from WoW, so I'll leave a link in the description, so that if you want to get these from where I got them, you can go copy one. All right, but overall, in terms of price, between 250 plus for the Way of Weight 8s, I give it an affordability score of 6 out of 10. And then since the Way of Weight 10s and the Way of Weight 11s are coming around the same price, expected price of 225, these guys get a score of 7 out of 10 just because of the tech and the way that it's implemented in the overall performance. However, it still irks me that shoes are going for this expensive, but it is what it is right now. So that's what we have. All right, so time to piece it all together. We have the overall scores for the 8s, 10s, and 11s across performance, design and aesthetics, comfort and fit, and also affordability. So starting with the Way of Weight 8s, we have an overall score of 6.925. For the Way of Weight 10s, we have a score of 8.2 out of 10. And then finally, for the Way of Weight 11s, we have a score of 8.35 out of a possible 10. All right, so based on the overall scores, we can deduce that the way of weight 10s and the way of weight 11s are better than the way of weight 8s. However, I think that's a good thing from Leaning's perspective, because you do want to evolve. The fact that your 10 and your 11th iteration of the shoes are better than what you had as the 8th edition should be something, I guess, worthy of celebration, I suppose. However, if you do want to make a purchase decision between the 10s and the 11s, because the overall scores are so close together, 8.2 versus 8.35, I think you can maybe just flip back to the video. Anything that you think is imperative for you to have as a player, if you want to say traction is what is most important to me, cushion is what is most important to me. Also, I want to have some comfort. I want to have some, I want the fit to be perfect. I want it to be breathable if that's what's most important to me. I think that's going to influence what you end up going with. Also, things like design and aesthetics. Do I want something that's more outlandish? Do I want something that's more safe? Those things also combine to form your final decision. But I hope this guide has been helpful, and also I'm gonna leave like the timestamps in the description, so if you want to just float to and fro any section, it's going to be easy for you to go and do that if you want to check specifics about the shoe. But I really tried to break this down into my scoring metrics the best way I could. So I hope this has been helpful. Please let me know if there's still anything else you want to know about any of these shoes, and I will do my best to even just reply in the comments, give you guys more information. Thank you guys so much for the support. You guys have been killing it with the comments and with the likes and with the contributions and with the subscribes. You guys are doing an awesome job. Please continue to like, share this information with anyone who you think this might be helpful to. Also, if there's any other videos you want me to make or you want me to compare, please let me know in the comment section. I have been making a backlog of videos that I have to make over the next couple of weeks, so I will add that to the backlog and try to get it out as soon as I can. You guys have been awesome, and yeah, it's been nice hanging with you guys. See you guys in the next one. Bye, Hoopers.